Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. So I've got some interesting news this week. But before I get into the news, I actually have an update about something. It's something that I have been advertising for a while as a fundraiser / speaking tour. I was raising funds to do the speaking tour. And, well, I made the decision a couple of days ago to cancel the tour. And everyone who donated that I had contact info on, I have contacted with the option of returning the donations in full. There are some people that donated Bitcoin that I do not have info as far as who donated because they were anonymous Bitcoin donations. So the people that I have not contacted yet, if you donated and you tell me the amount and the approximate day, then I will refund that donation. Now, of course, I'll do my best in case somebody winds up sending me an email just guessing numbers and days. Like, if I figure that it's totally frivolous, then I will not wind up sending Bitcoin. But if you're within like $1, because I know Bitcoin has dropped since some of the donations were made. So if you think, like I donated $10 and it's a certain day and, I go through my records and there's a donation that's matching, then I will wind up refunding Bitcoin donations to anyone that donated Bitcoin that would like their donation refunded. So you can email me, editor@fpp.cc, and I will get that initiated promptly. However, there is some good news that has come out of this. It allows me to wind up continuing doing something that I have done for the past couple of years here in New Hampshire, and that is frequently travel to Concord to testify to various committees. And additionally, I have an opportunity to speak at the Michigan Libertarian Party Convention coming up in May. The details on that will come out as soon as everything is officially official. At this point, it's one of those unofficially official sort of things. So everything on that should be finalized as far as officially official in about a week. So details on that will come up. So if you do happen to be in Michigan in May, then you could possibly wind up attending this convention and hearing me speak. So into the news. There's some news out of Hong Kong, and I have covered some of the Hong Kong activities in the past. Well, apparently, protesters are back in the streets. The story here from the LA Times says more than 10,000 people 10,000 people marched in Hong Kong on Sunday to press for open elections in 2017, staging the first mass rally since police cleared pro-democracy demonstrations from the streets in December. Protesters rallied in the financial district known as Central, and the prop that came to define the fall 2014 protest, the canary yellow umbrella, was ubiquitous despite there being nary a threat of rain. But Sunday's mood was precipitously muted. Whereas large throngs of university and high school students energized the autumn protest, the latest demonstration attracted a noticeably older crowd. Among the marchers were new coalitions, such as the Progressive Lawyers Group and Umbrella Parents, whose members said they believed it was time to take a proactive role in what has been so far a predominantly student-led movement. The event felt less like a pep rally and more like a strategy session for the most determined to carry on the fight. Now, one thing that I find interesting about this is that it seems as though there's two completely separate sets of demonstrations. Obviously, separated not only by time, the previous demonstrations ending in December, the new ones beginning here in February. So, there's clearly a gap to where it's not the same demonstration. But it's about the same issue, but it's two totally different sets of people. You did not see the Progressive Lawyers Group or Umbrella Parents going out to protest alongside the students. And based on the article here, it does not sound like the students are out protesting alongside the older people. And I don't really know how old. It just says, that it's an older crowd. So it could just be people in their 30s, 40s, which is by no means old, but compared to 18, 19, 20 years old, it's definitely an older crowd. But it seems as though there's not much overlap between the students and the more adult crowd. Not that the students aren't adult. I don't know what term to use for 30-something-year-old people that are protesting, because I don't want to say the old people, because they're definitely not elderly. They're not seniors. They're not senior citizens. So I'm not really sure what term to use here to differentiate the younger crowd and the slightly older crowd. But there's definitely not that crossover and the coming together of the two groups. And I think that that alone will probably cause these newest protests to wind up being like the previous ones. They might go on for some time, but ultimately they will wind up falling short of the goal. You need these broad coalitions to where you have the young people, the quote-unquote regular adults that are 30s, 40s, 50s, plus you need the senior demographic to be represented. And so far, there are not many protest rallies that I have seen ever that have a good mix of all three of those age ranges. Certainly, the Tea Party had some of the older people and some of the not so old, so, the 30, 40-somethings, but they really lacked a lot of the youth. Now, I know some people are going to argue, well, the Tea Party really started with Ron Paul, and that was young people, and then the Republicans took it up. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the Glenn Beck, Sarah Palin, Dick Armey rallies that have become known as Tea Party rallies. Those, the ones that, the mainstream media was covering, those lacked a lot of young people. And in a lot of cases, they lack any young people. And that, in my opinion, is why that failed. The Occupy had a lot of young people, lacked everything else. There's more on Hong Kong when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
During the 2013 Porcupine Freedom Festival, Davi Barker presented an idea for a renegade psychological experiment. Since then, he has refined his idea and put his plan and research into writing. He explains, "We aim to show the world beyond a shadow of a doubt that power corrupts absolutely and corrupt authority deserves no obedience." Authoritarian Sociopathy is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Coinbase is a simple and secure online Bitcoin wallet for sending, receiving, and storing Bitcoin. Coinbase also allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using a bank account or use their tools to accept Bitcoin as a merchant. Opening a wallet is quick and easy, and for merchants, there are no transaction fees on the first $1 million worth of transactions. Get started at coinbase.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by joining the Fans program. Fans are friends, allies, and Numery supporters. Fans help FPP afford to produce more original content. You can join the Fans program for as little as $3 per month or any amount of Bitcoin per month, thanks to the recurring payment options provided by Coinbase. To learn more or to join the Fans program, visit fans.fppradio.com. That's FANS.fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. So the news out of Hong Kong is that protests have re-emerged, where it's an older demographic this time as opposed to the student-led protests that happened back in the fall. The article here from the LA Times, it continues with a quote from Alan Leong, a legislator in the so-called pan-democratic camp of the territory's Legislative Council. And Leong said, "The most important mission upon us right now is how can we win over the other half of Hong Kong?" The most recent public opinion polls indicate that 41% of people living in Hong Kong are willing to accept the 2017 electoral rules put forth by China's central government, while 46% of respondents supported the campaign to press for free elections for the city's highest office. Now, let me sort of put this in perspective here, because most people probably look at this and they say, wait a second. So China, the government in Beijing, wants to basically hand select who gets to run for office in Hong Kong? How dare they? They need to have free elections. How can the other, how can these 41% of people in Hong Kong that are willing to accept this, how can they stand for this? But yet, in the United States, I would say that it's much higher than 41% that are willing to accept whatever election laws are handed down from, be it the state, local, or federal governments in their various jurisdictions. And just because there's the illusion of choice in America, people are willing to accept it. Even though when you look at surveys that come out from Reuters and Rasmussen and some of the other polling places, people, 50, 60, 70% of people say that they are willing to vote for a third-party candidate. But yet when it comes election time, they wind up not doing so. But very rarely, and I would dare say it has probably never happened because I've never seen the results of such a poll, very rarely are people asked if they think that it should be easier for independent or minor party candidates to get on the ballot. If independent and minor party candidates should have the same path to the general election ballot as Republicans and Democrats. I would dare say that if such a poll were ever done, the vast majority of people would wind up saying that ballot access rules don't need to be changed. That, whatever the rules are now, if the independent candidate can't get on the ballot, well, obviously they have no support. But yet in some places it is so difficult for a minor party or independent candidate to get on the ballot to where it seems as though no one has enough support to get on the ballot. But when in fact you have the Republicans and Democrats that are creating the rules and setting the barriers so high to where they know that they are protecting themselves from competition. And it's really no different than what's happening in Hong Kong, to where you have the government of China who is saying, we are setting the rules, we will hand select the candidates that go before you. That's really what ballot access rules in the United States are, is you have the central government of, be it New Hampshire, Texas, California, wherever, you have the government in that state that is essentially hand-selecting who can and cannot be on the ballot, although they're saying, well, we just have these ballot access requirements, and if you can't jump over the hoop, then you don't have any support and you don't deserve to be on the ballot anyway. But yet, historically and statistically, there are large numbers of people that run as Republicans and Democrats that are required to have no support at all to get on the general election ballot. And I say that because in a lot of places, no one files to run against someone in the primary election, so they are automatically the candidate that gets on the general election ballot. All they have to do in a lot of places is just either sign a piece of paper saying I wish to be a candidate or pay a minuscule filing fee. In New Hampshire, a Republican or a Democrat can run for state rep by paying a $2 fee to the Secretary of State. A minor party or independent candidate that wishes to also run for state rep needs to not only pay that $2, but then collect a number of petitions that is in no way proportioned to the number of people in the district. Sometimes the district, because there's a lot of multi-member districts in New Hampshire, sometimes you will have an electoral district that is 15 times larger than another electoral district. So you have these very disproportioned sizes, but yet they have the same number of signatures that they have to collect. And that is a great burden on the minor party and independent candidates. But because, there's the illusion of choice between Republicans and Democrats, and you don't have some committee of the elected deciding who's on the ballot, Americans are okay with it. But yet when they look at Hong Kong and they see that, as I have previously stated, the Chinese government is going to determine who gets to run for office in Hong Kong, they sit back and think, how can 41% of people in Hong Kong accept this? But it's really no different. The article here continues. It says Hong Kong, a former British colony, reverted to Chinese rule 17 years ago under a framework known as One Country, Two Systems, which supposedly ensures the territory of 7 million people a substantial degree of autonomy for 50 years. In August, the Standing Committee of China's National People's Congress, or NPC, laid down a framework for future elections of the territory's chief executive, in effect limiting the choice of candidates to only 2 or 3 approved by a nominating committee that is expected to be composed largely of people regarded as pro-Beijing. The framework touched off unprecedented street protest lasting 10 weeks, with thousands of demonstrators clogging major thoroughfares and surrounding government headquarters. The sit-ins ended in December after police acting on a court order cleared the street. On Sunday, the demonstrators occasionally chanted in unison, "NPC doesn't represent me. No to fake democracy." The election framework handed down by the NPC still has to win approval from Hong Kong's Legislative Council to actually take effect. At Sunday's rally, pan-democratic legislator Albert Ho said he plans to quit in a few months in a bid to bring more pressure to bear on the government over the election rules. Ho's resignation would trigger an election that could serve as a de facto referendum on NPC election framework. The pan-democratic bloc has repeatedly vowed to block the proposal, though it's unclear whether its members can muster enough votes. There's a little bit more to this article. I'll post the link in the show notes, but there's other things that I want to talk about, and I'll do that when I come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Why do they hate us? Is libertarianism compatible with Islam? Davi Barker answers these questions and more in Voluntary Islam and Other Essays. He advances the voluntarist cause with analysis of the confluence of values between Islam and libertarianism, as well as contemporary movements from the Tea Party to the Arab Spring. Voluntary Islam by Davi Barker will be available on February 19th. ExpressCoin is the best choice for buying Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and more. ExpressCoin prides themselves on their customer service, so much so that the back end on the website should allow them to be even more focused on your needs. Get your cryptocurrencies with money order, check, wire transfer, or cash deposit. Get started at expresscoin.fppradio.com. That's expresscoin.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for t-shirts, precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. There's an Amazon shopping iframe built into the website, or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. So I've got an article here from Tech Dirt about a report from the TSA. And this report drew an angry response from the Inspector General. No, the inspector is not upset over the complete lack of accountability that the TSA has. He's not even upset necessarily about the large number of tests that the TSA fails. When the TSA performs tests on themselves, a lot of times they wind up failing. He's not upset about that. What he is upset about is the vast number of redactions that probably serve to cover up the things that I mentioned. But the report is heavily redacted. Again, the article here from TechDirt says the DHS Inspector General has finally released a report on the agency's control of TSA information systems at JFK International Airport. It's been delayed several times, mainly because of now former TSA head John Pistoli's refusal to communicate with the Inspector General's office. This report, which has a release date of January 16th, 2015, was actually completed on July 22nd, 2014. It was turned over to the TSA's CIO for a review, which should have concluded within 30 days. The DHS Chief of Staff asked for additional time after failing to meet the deadline. The Inspector General granted another 30 days, making the new deadline September 17th. This revised due date came and went without a response from the TSA. On October 20th, the TSA finally produced its approved version of the IG's report, but not without several redactions of supposed sensitive security information. The Inspector General formally challenged the redaction in a memo in November to John Pistoli. Pistoli never responded. Another memo was issued in December, which was also ignored by the TSA chief. Finally, 5 months after its sensitive information review, the report was returned to the Inspector General's office. All of the challenged redactions remained. The Inspector General's letter, which opens up the report, expresses his displeasure at the TSA's stalling tactics and secrecy. The letter reads, quote, I am disappointed in both the substance of the decisions as well as its lack of timeliness. In 2006, Congress, concerned about delays in appeals of this nature, directed the department to revise DHS Management Directive 11056.1 to require TSA to require timely sensitive security reviews, or rather sensitive security information reviews. Given the clear requirement for timely SSI reviews in response to requests from the public, we hoped the TSA would approach an SSI appeal from the Inspector General with similar diligence, especially because TSA was aware of our deadlines. Now, to meet our reporting requirements, we are compelled to publish a redacted report with SSI markings and will again ask the head of the TSA to overrule the SSI program officer's decision. I believe that this report should be released in its entirety in the public domain. I challenged the TSA's determination because this type of information has been disclosed in other reports without objection from the TSA, and because the language marked SSI reveals generic, non-specific vulnerabilities that are common to virtually all systems and would not be detrimental to transportation security. My auditors, who are experts in computer security, have assured me that the redacted information would not compromise transportation security. Our ability to issue reports that are transparent without unduly restricting information is key to accomplishing our mission. And then TechDirt says, so here we have a clear case of the TSA thwarting its own oversight in order to withhold information from the public. These are the sorts of things the TSA doesn't want you to see. And they then have a redacted paragraph that I will read because it's very interesting. Adequate controls have not been established limiting access to TSA-sensitive equipment in JFK terminals. For example, redacted, located, redacted, contained DHS locked equipment cabinets located, redacted, redacted, with non-DHS IT equipment. According to TSA staff, technical representatives did not know the total number of non-DHS personnel that had access to redacted, full line redacted, partial line redacted. In addition, redacted contained unsecured TSA equipment and were accessible to non-DHS individuals. Specifically, as shown in Figure 2, a TSA redacted cabinet was located redacted airport. The doors between the two areas did not lock, and airport employees walked through the area. Redacted, full line, redacted, full line, redacted, full line. So there you have just one paragraph of this report that is supposed to be, somewhat transparent so that the Inspector General can even know what is being talked about, but so much information is being redacted that it makes absolutely no sense, and it looks like somebody just went through with a marker and crossed out lines of one of the Mad Lib books. So instead of just saying, like, fill in the blank for noun, it's like, fill in the blank for noun, and this entire sentence is gone. Fill in the blank for a verb, and the entire sentence is gone. So it's, in one way, it's humorous. In another way, it's very frustrating, especially when you believe that, governments, if they are to exist, should be transparent and let people know what the heck is going on. The final story that I want to get into, and I could talk at length about the TSA, but I will not do that. The final story, remember at the beginning of the year when I covered one of these stories, or it might have been the end of last year, well, it was one of these stories of like the top 5 zero tolerance things from schools around the country. Well, there's a new one to add to the list, or to begin the list of 2015 zero tolerance stories. A 4th grader in West Texas has been suspended, his father says, because he pretended to have a ring like the One Ring from the Lord of the Rings, and said it could make a classmate disappear. The father, Jason Stewart, said he was told his son's claim amounted to making a terrorist threat. Stewart took his story to the Odessa, Texas American on Friday, saying the boy had seen The Hobbit, The Battle of Five Armies, the preceding weekend. He brought a ring to class and told another kid it would make him vanish. When Stewart confronted the school principal to ask what was going on, he said he was told that threatening another child's safety was not tolerated, even if it was something that was magical, such as a ring that can make you disappear. There's a little bit more to the story that you can read at your leisure and have a good chuckle. And remember, every Wednesday I do the AMA. That's the Ask Me Anything. Send your questions, AMA@fppradio.com.